Alright, so before we begin, I want to say that the video that you're about to watch is one of our additional commentary videos. They're very low-key on the editing side, so don't expect anything too fancy. And they're basically just meant to add some things or respond to comments about the original video essay. In the past, we made these for our patrons only, but from now on, these additional commentaries will be posted on our second channel, which is called the Storytellers podcast. The link for that is in the description. This is because we're working on a complete patron and channel makeover, which we're really excited about. We're working together with a graphic designer to help us make a better banner, more professional banner, and it's looking really good. So I hope we'll be up in a couple of weeks probably, and yeah, we're really excited about it. So our patrons will still get a better deal, of course. So for more info on that, check out my comment on this video. Also, one last note, I've been seeing a number of people getting offended by my criticism of high-profile liberal audiences mostly. Although I do not explicitly mention it, I'm as much criticizing those people as I am the neoconservatives who saw it as praising the Iraq War. I'm just trying to provide a new way of looking at the film. You don't have to agree with me. I was just trying to show the structural message of the film in an objective manner, or at least as objective as possible. Anyways, enjoy, guys. Alright, hello everyone. So 3 days ago, I uploaded my American Sniper video, and in the meantime, we've gotten a lot of comments, questions, and criticisms. Now I wanted to make this video to answer and talk about some of the top comments that we got, and that touch on some important and the most talked about points. But before I get into any of that, I want to promote the thesis that I use for this analysis. Now this essay that I use is called Deterministic Screens and Partisan Audiences, a Burkean cluster analysis of Clint Eastwood's American Sniper by Daniel K. Merwin. Now he uses the same cluster analysis method of dissecting the film, but takes it a step further by combining it with liberal and conservative deterministic screens, or in other words, the way that both of those groups look at the world and which terms they resonate with. And he uses both of these things to examine how either of the parties interpreted the film through their own political screen, or misinterpreted, if you will. You can pause it here if you want to read it a little bit, but yeah, it's a fairly thought-provoking read. I think there's a lot of truth in it. It's available for free online. I'll try to add a link in the description so you can check it out if you're interested. I mainly use the cluster analysis method combined with some of his own findings for my own video, as it's a great tool to discern the main themes of a film text objectively, and to see how the subordinate terms change value throughout. Alright, so without further ado, let's go on to some of the comments. The first one is by LSOO. Interesting take on the film. Didn't realize it got so much hate. You enter into a difficult area, though, when labeling American Sniper as anti-war, which I don't think is necessarily defined by showing the destructiveness of war, but rather by to what extent the destruction can be justified in the end. As for American Sniper, the fact that he did get his bad guy at the end and got a big funeral parade and hero status, granted not by everyone, but still, to me shows that this is far from an anti-war film. I'm pretty sure there are plenty of folks out there who look at a film like this and think it was all worth it. Okay, so I believe this touches on what Now You See It has said in this video about war films. If you don't know him, he's another video essayist who is actually fairly popular and makes a lot of great videos, so I'll put a link to that video in the description as well. Basically, his statement is that a film can be defined as a pro-war film if the benefits outweigh the costs of the war, which he states is a thing that American Sniper shows. So, although I agree with the observation of what a pro-war film is, I don't believe it fully applies to American Sniper. So as I've shown in my video, the 3 pillars of Kyle's thinking are shown to be completely destructive to family, and in some ways even his military family, as it gets 2 of his friends killed. So never do we see any progress in the Iraq War as well. Instead, things seem to be escalating and getting worse every time Kyle comes back. And then in the last battle, we see that after he wants to protect his family, he's still putting himself and other soldiers in danger. Now, I am going to agree with the fact that there should have been more of a negative consequence for him, especially in that last scene, which could have been shown in one of the other soldiers getting killed or maimed. But I'll get back to that in a little bit. Overall, I believe that if American Sniper were to be a heavily pro-war film showing the benefits outweighing the costs, the values that Kyle carries with him, which are those highly conservative or more like neoconservative values, would definitely not have been depicted to be so detrimental to family in every shape and form. Instead, those values would have been shown to be positive and effective in its goal, and not entirely flawed. Also, I don't believe that the film is pro-war just for portraying someone who personally was. I believe that there isn't really any benefit over cost in the film. We just see the war costing more and more with less and less benefit, if we see benefit at all. In the end, he dies, the war isn't resolved, and families are still being destroyed. It tries to depict his dogmatic beliefs, the destructiveness of said beliefs, and shows him to be more of a tragic and flawed character, in my opinion. It is, however, still respectful to his intentions as a person, which brings us to the portrayal of Chris Kyle and also our second comment by Before the Credits. I would agree with you if it wasn't for a few things. I see you mentioned this isn't about Kyle himself, but who he was as a real person plays a part in what the movie became. It seems he just wasn't a good person at all. He lied a lot and seems to love war himself, which isn't shown in the movie but played a role with the people who watching the movie that look more into him. Alright, so this touches on a part of the film's criticism that I believe holds some truth. Clint Eastwood is very obviously careful to not portray Kyle as a person in a too negative light, and as Bradley Cooper has stated, the film actively tries to put emphasis on veterans and honors their plight in the process. Now, I think the certain lack in nuanced depth in Kyle's character makes that some of the anti-war elements might have become overshadowed, and I agree with that. I've only read a little bit about the controversy surrounding him, so I don't know how much of it is true or whether this was known to the filmmakers during production. But what I do know to be true is that Kyle has stated in his autobiography to have enjoyed killing people in Iraq, which is something that Before the Credits touches on in his comment. This is something that's only subtly hinted at the movie, I think. As you know, you can see Taya questioning Kyle's real intentions as he wants to go back for a fourth time because she doesn't believe that he's doing it to protect his families anymore, but for other more personal reasons. But I think the film mainly explains this in his obsession with killing the people responsible for murdering his friends. So I would agree that the anti-war message would have been clearer if this would have been implemented. His enjoyment of killing, and would have benefited the quality and I think the honesty of the film in general if this aspect of Kyle would have been shown in the movie. But I do understand that this would have probably never happened. Even if Clint Eastwood would have wanted to implement it, the guy had just been shot, so I think they were extra careful in his portrayal. And besides that, there's also the possibility that the studio just wanted to play it safer for a big audience, and that might have opened the door for a more pro-neoconservative viewing of the film. I mean, this is not Francis Ford Coppola prancing around half naked in the Philippine jungle on his own budget, so I doubt Eastwood had complete liberty in this, unless someone can prove me wrong, of course. But that brings us to a number of questions. Does Clint Eastwood and directors of war films in general hold a responsibility in the interpretation of their films? So even if Eastwood personally wanted to make a predominantly anti-war film, having part of the audience interpret it as a pro-war film, does that mean that it is his failure, or failure on his part, or is it a failure on the audience's part to misinterpret the film? Does that mean that we have to do away with subtlety when it comes to sensitive topics? Does that mean that we have to limit a director's liberty in showing his own view, or to be politically correct in the depicting of these sensitive topics? Or is it to be found in the apparent dishonest portrayal of Chris Kyle, even though it was only meant to be roughly based on his life? Aren't biopics in essence problematic when it comes to creating a fake narrative around a real person? Or is it all just fiction and people shouldn't learn history from fiction films? Alright, so those are some of the questions that popped up for me and that could further the conversation in the comment section, because I want to know what you think about this personally and what your views are. I think with that, I've said most of what I intended to say, and I hope it provided you with some further context and ways to further the conversation. Of course, I appreciate constructively post varying viewpoints, of which I'm looking forward to seeing more in this comment section. Thank you all for watching.